Now, the fourth tenet is probably the most important one. If you really want to engage people's autonomy and creativity, then you need to respect that they are autonomous thinkers and creative minds. So you cannot control people that you want to be autonomous and creative. That's why to lead by influence as opposed to lead by imposition is key. And the word to remember are give up control. One of the best examples I can think of is the political campaign that Barack Obama led in 2008 to get to the presidential position. Regardless of his political opinion, which is really not my point here, the amazing thing that he did is that as a complete underdog with no executive experience, with short legislative experience, as someone who was below 50 of age, as somebody who had no money to support him, as somebody who had a very small supporting base, as somebody who was black in a country that a few decades ago would not allow black people to vote, he still got to his vision, which was to become the President of the United States. So that's quite an achievement right there. So let's look into what he did. Well, he looked at the game of the presidential election. The by-the-book approach is to focus on the swing states because of the great electors, the indirect ways of electing a president in the U.S. And he said, okay, everybody's focusing on the swing states, but there, I don't have the money, I don't have the recognition, I don't have the supportive system, I'm not going to make it through, I'm not going to win. So he thought, well, actually, it's not so much of a national election as it is as a state election. It's not one big federal election, it's 50 state elections. Why? Because actually New Yorkers really do care about the future of Israel. When people in New Mexico care about the border with Mexico, when people in Arizona care about the level of tax in their state, and altogether Hawaii and or Alaska or California care about altogether other different things. So he established 50 campaign camps and thought that if we were able to engage voters locally on every of these 50 states, it would be able to make a difference. And that's how he tipped over a state like Nevada, for instance, which was traditionally a Republican state. So he went for this very creative vision about how to engage into winning the election. And then, whereas actually his opponents, whether Hillary Clinton or McCain, went for the by-the-book approach, which was focusing on the swing states. Then he took a second very radical creative approach to the key thing of what a president is about, leadership. And he said to people, listen, I'm asking you to believe not just in my ability to bring about real change in Washington. I'm asking you to believe in yours. So he tipped over the traditional idea of leadership according to the 20th century pyramid, that the leader sits at the top of the pyramid, and understood that the world had changed. It was really all about relationship and this interconnection between people. And that's how we got to engage young voters, people who would not vote, and bring the participation rate at a much higher level than ever before in a presidential election. By doing so, of course, he understood that the world had shifted into social networks thanks to the internet. And he's been able to engage people at such a level of detail by reaching people through the internet, iPhones, cell phones, and on. So just as an example, for people who would sign to receive text from the Obama campaign, then they would receive text telling them that in their address book, their good friend John Doe in Arizona had been voting Democrat 8 years ago, but this year had not yet registered his or her intention to vote for the Democratic Party or Democratic candidate. So they will remind you to make a phone call to your good friend John Doe and ask them what's going on and motivate them to vote for Barack Obama. That's quite some level of detail. So he moved from this very creative vision, embracing a very creative approach to leadership, moving into flawless level of detailed management, and of course delivered a very high performance. So we have somebody who's been able to embrace a very holistic approach within a very paradoxical approach, being able to really listen about how voters feel in every state, and delivering a leadership by influence that got him to the biggest position in the company.